Hi everyone, and welcome back to SGDA's last game for this Student Games Showcase block. I'm Jason again, SGDA president, and I'm here with Vola-Tile from North Carolina State University. Um, yeah, and we'll let Magna and everyone else introduce themselves.
I am Magna, I'm the SGDA marketing lead, and if the team of Vola-Tile want to go off I guess the Discord order is kind of strange in video format, but if anyone wants to go first in introducing themselves and the role that they had in this game.
I can go first. I'm Aaron King. I'm a computer science student at NC State, and I did a lot of programming for the project, such as procedural generation and some other backend stuff.
I guess I can go. Hello, my name is Jack Grace. I'm studying comp sci game development. I was the one who pitched this game originally and then did a lot of the more back-end programming for things like the rule system for the game and then exposing that to the player for rule creation.
I'm Phillips, also a computer science student and math student, and I worked on a lot of the player-facing systems, so taking a lot of the back-end work and making it accessible and general game flow stuff, UI, etc.
I am Elliot Schultz. I'm a recent graduate of NC State in computer science, and I did a lot of the smaller gameplay mechanics, so focusing on like the settlers and their interactions, and then I did some of the art with. So it's fun.
Hi, I'm Thomas Riga. I'm a current computer science major at NC State, and I worked on some of the building mechanics and getting that sorted out, and also did some of the art, some of the first art tiles that we thought would be replaced, but they stuck with it.
Awesome. And I guess to start off, how did this game kind of get started, and where'd you get the idea from?
Yeah, I can tackle that one. So we were in, it's essentially a senior capstone class at NC State. And as an assignment in the class, everybody has to pitch a game idea, and then 4 of the ideas are selected and teams are formed around that, and that's now your assignment for the rest of the class. So we were given general themes to build off of, and the 2 themes that we got were systems thinking and decision intelligence. And when I heard that, I said, okay, systems thinking is Conway's Game of Life is what pops into my head, and decision intelligence, Civ, is what pops into my head. How can I do both of those at the same time? So I came up with the idea of like a Civ settlement building game, but where the world itself is a cellular automata, where each one of the tiles terrains is affecting each other, so they're changing rapidly and you're kind of fighting against the world to survive.
I can start off some of the gameplay to show that if we want.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, you start off with a generated grid map, and you can place 3 settlers to each have a home on the map. And please adjust the audio on stream side. I don't know how loud or quiet it is, but you can click each settler to do different actions. Like they can move, they can build structures, they can change the tiles around them. But like Jack was saying, with Conway's Game of Life being the main mechanic, each of these tiles operates on like a deterministic set of rules. So if I press tab, you'll see what the tiles will change to in the next turn, and you can see the turn number up here. And you can actually predict that by analyzing the rule sets for each tile. So you can click the View Tile Information tab, and I can click Grass, for instance. And so I can see that if the count of adjacent forest and water is at least 3, it'll change to forest, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of different rules, and they're done in this priority order. So we can see, like, this grass tile is going to change to tree because it's surrounded by a water, a tree, and a tree. And so since that's at least 3, it'll turn into a forest the next turn. our settlers are kind of our way to interact with this interesting mechanic and idea. So we basically built like a bit of a resource managing simulation beyond it / survival, where you have these resources at the top, and your settlers can get killed if they starve by running out of food, and you need these other resources in order to build your structures. So like if I want more food for my settler, I can move them here and build a farm, but that requires 12 wood and 12 water. So I could move this guy over to the forest and have him collect wood here, so I have more wood. I could move this guy over to the water, and he can collect water here. And then we would be able to build the farm. And as the game goes on, you'll find that each of the weather can change. And my character died because I don't have enough food. So now we're in the drought weather, and it changes a lot because we found in playtesting that these systems can start to trend towards certain patterns, and so we added this weather system to kind of diversify that. So in this one, things can catch on fire. Like my dude here is going to get burned alive in the next turn. And then I hit a game over state. So that's kind of a lot of the basic gameplay systems. Does anyone else want to add on that?
And so, given that it's all based on these tiles changing, each building that you can build is only like valid on certain terrain types. So farms can only be built on grass. But if you're sitting there and a forest is encroaching, if that grass tile gets changed to a forest, that farm will get destroyed, and now you lost your source of food. So you have to kind of like mess with the rules a little bit in order to save it. So you can either flip a tile, which is one option, where let's say it was surrounded by 3 forests and that was going to turn the grass into forest. If you went and flipped one of those forest tiles into a grass tile, now that rule would no longer be met and your farm would be safe for another turn. The other mechanic that that you can use to protect it, which was worked on, is walls, where if there's a wall on a tile, instead of that tile changing terrain, the wall will be damaged. So that way it gives you a little bit of a buffer so you can keep terrain at bay while you start to figure out how to mess with the terrain enough to keep your structures safe. And the goal of the game is to get 10 settlers, and that's how you win.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's like a lot of like planning, or I guess it's like almost like a puzzle game in that effect, where you have to sort of plan ahead whilst also like managing your resources as well. So since you kind of answered one of my questions about the kind of like the rule system and exposing them to the player, how did you create this map generation system? Since I played it multiple times and saw like, it changes every time. So I guess like how was that designed?
I can talk about that. So I used Unity's Perlin noise system to generate the maps. Originally, I saw some problems where like biomes would always spawn in other biomes, like desert would be surrounded by trees or mountains, and then mountains would be surrounded by grass. So then I implemented a system where like it did once over of like ground versus water, and then it went over again and determined biomes and so on. So we get more of that like proceduralness without it looking like, too weird or like common. And then also we exposed all the map details to the player so that when you start a new game, you can actually customize it so that biomes are bigger, the map can be as large as you want, that your computer can handle, and so on and so forth from there. And we made it so it's pretty customizable, so in the future if we want to add more tiles, we can just drop them into a list in the editor that'll automatically start spawning them in.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
And I can showcase, so like we have a few options from the main menu that you can change the map generation with. We have a seed, so like if you have a generation you really like, you can keep that. Do the size, biome scale, grouping scale. and then rule set is another significant.
Oh. So you can implement your
Customization we have.
own like rule set into the game, or
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that because that's what I spent most of my time working on. Originally, the rule sets were in code, which made them really hard to change. But I went through and built them into, like, I decoupled them from the game itself and made them into a like formatted text file essentially, and then exposed it to this menu that Phillips is on right now, where you can go in this menu build a rule set based on changing these different the different rules listed here based on tile type and weather. And so you can go in and fully customize the rules that are going to be running on your game. And then when you choose one of those rule sets at the start, it will grab the specific rule set that you picked, and that's now the way that the game is running. So if you said, man, I feel like the droughts are really strong, I don't want fires to spread as quickly, you could go into the fire rules and increase the required number of tiles for fire to spawn. And now fires will be less frequent. So you can go in and do that, and then whenever you finish a rule set, you can save it, and it's now an option to select when you're starting the game. And as you can see now, the water is going to all be gone.
As an example, I made a ridiculous rule set where every turn, all water turns into fire, and then anything besides fire also catches on fire. So we'll see here, all my water caught on fire, and now everything is catching on fire, and we're in hell.
Yeah.
But like more practical uses, like we created an example one called Sinking Island, where it basically, what it says is if you're beside deep water, it'll turn to water, and then water will turn to deep water, and then it'll keep doing that pattern over and over again. And so you'll end up finding that as the game goes on, the island starts sinking, and the water keeps encroaching all around the perimeter. And that's just kind of an example about how customizing the rule sets can really change the way that the game ends up playing.
Yeah, awesome. So then, because then it becomes many ways to play the game, depending on how hard or easy you make it.
Yeah. And then those rule sets that you make, if you're playing any one of the actual downloaded versions of the game, they're saved into the files system. So now you can quit the game and restart it, and all of your custom rule sets are still there. And if you're playing in the browser, we have a browser compatible version you can play, and they're just stored in the cache. So they'll still be there if you go back to the website if you have the cookies enabled for it. But if you clear your cache, it'll get rid of all your custom ones.
Got it. Oh, that's really cool, especially for the web build too.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are coming up on time a little bit, so we did want to ask, like, what parts of the game are you most proud of?
Well, for me, it's I think it was being able to expose the rules to the player. I think in my mind that was, for me, the detail that changed it from a demo into a game, because now there's that variable option of all the different things that players can do with how they want to make the game their own.
I would have to second Jack on that, because for me, I was like, I was focusing on a lot of the player-facing things, and so when we were trying to create one rule set that fits every situation, like trying to balance it in a way that it would be like the optimal game experience, it was just really hard to find that. Like, some maps would generate in a way that would make our rule set boring, some maps would generate in a way that made our rule set cool, and so once I really saw the idea of letting the players fully customize the rule set, to me that was when I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Like, there's a lot of different experiments you can do with this game.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, do you guys have anything that you want to... Actually, I just realized we do have like a break after this, so we can go a little bit longer if you guys want. Because I don't know, I'm sorry, I like my brain is mush. But I guess in terms of difficulty in development, what was the part of the development that you thought was like the hardest in terms, since there was like a lot of thinking about map generation or custom rules.
I think just like trying to think about how everything went together,
Mhm.
because like with 5 different programmers, and originally we were like, when we were working on the project, we were like, there's not enough for 5 of us. So we were trying to figure out how to break everything up and then also piece it all back together, like the
Yep.
generation with Tommy's building system, and then Elliot's character system, and then the rule system, and then the UI and everything. Just taking all 5 of our pieces and kind of pushing them together, I think.
Yeah.
How
would say
many
once
how many managers did we have end
A
up
lot of
with? Because I know there was a manager.
Yep.
Yeah,
There were like
I made
4 different tile maps. Like,
there was definitely like I was working on a lot of the systems for like the player facing stuff, and it was pretty difficult with all the different modes the player can be in. Like they could be moving a settler, they could be viewing the next turn and all that. That was a difficulty I faced individually, but like hopping off of what Aaron was saying, I think once we really got understood our workflow, we ended up getting into a pretty good state of flow where things were going pretty smoothly.
Yeah, we luckily managed to avoid a lot of the big like merge conflict things. Like I don't know that we had more than a few problems with connecting things. It was just the thoughts of how do we connect them that was harder, because we were all able to kind of set up our own individual places to work in, which led to some funny scenarios, like me not making a single push for like 4 weeks because my system was just taking so long to build. But it like worked perfectly fine once I ended up pushing it, which was great. So I mean, a lot of the difficulties that we would have had, I don't think at least I ended up running into, because all the people I was working with were like, really competent and actually did a good job of keeping everything clean. So that made it
It
a lot
was
easier.
the advantage of us. We've created a game that kind of appeals to programmers, and because of that, it was a good game for programmers to make. And we were a team of 5 programmers and 1 music person. So
yeah, shout out to Abby.
yeah.
Let's
Also,
go to
of course, me, Elliot, and Tommy put a lot of hard work into those tile assets. Peak
Oh
program
yeah,
art right there.
I'm very proud of my settler sprite.
Yeah.
It all started with the
Let's get him on the
farm
screen.
asset.
Yes.
Yay,
The
zoom
first
in.
Gonna-
It's so
there
hard
he
to
is.
see the settler.
It's so
Move on
hard
a
to see
desert.
him, but I put so much work into it.
There you
There he
go.
is.
There he is.
He's beautiful.
He is.
20 out of 10.
His little hard hat.
Yeah. So
Also,
I guess
Elliot, your most important role, obviously, per
Oh, yeah.
usual, naming the
Yeah,
game.
yeah, naming the game. I got known for naming games.
nice. I was gonna say the name of the game is kind of perfect, because tile, and then like you can die so easily if you're not managing your settlers that well. Okay. And then I guess in terms of I did forget to ask this, but how long has this been game in development?
It was like over a semester.
Yeah, about
made it.
4
Like,
months.
Yes,
Yeah.
3 or 4 months, because we had to get it done by ECGC.
Got it.
Yeah, I think 3 months of like active development, and then we did like a few little tweaks at the end. But
Yeah, we spent a lot of time, like after we got our idea and all our mechanics, we did a good 2 weeks of polishing, I think, just to make it like a complete experience for the user.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so since we're kind of like at the end of this showcase section, we did want to ask if you had anything you wanted to shout out, whether that be a link to, you can obviously post a link of the game in our showcase chat in the Discord, but if you guys have anything else you want to shout out, like LinkedIn, socials, yeah.
we
check
can
out our
definitely drop the
page.
link.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a playable in browser, so it makes it pretty easy. So that'll be a good thing to do. I guess only thing, shout out Dr. Jahala.
Oh yeah.
That was our professor for the advanced games class. He organized the whole thing, organized all the pitches, and got us to go to ECGC, which was cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you to the Vola-Tile team for coming out and presenting their game. And then that is the end of Showcase Section F. So we're going to have a break for about an hour for the officers to get lunch and things. So then after that, that'll be our audio and sound design fireside chat with Amerlin Zeta. So thank you guys.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
for
Thank you,
coming
guys.
out.